There's a sequence, there's a code, there's a combination. And when you get the right combination, it unlocks everything for us. What's happening?
Hi.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Appreciate you jumping in. Where are you at on the planet these days?
Oh, I'm still in Ohio, but I leave for Portugal and Spain soon, and I'll be gone for like 6 weeks, which.
Where does the desire to just like travel the globe come from?
Oh, I don't know. I've always loved to travel, but now there's like a reason, right? Now it's a business expense because since we joined EXP, we can like have agents all throughout. So we're already in Portugal with like 5 agents, and that's growing, which is very exciting. And then I want to meet some agents in Spain. So I'm going to go hang out there. Why not?
There you go. Yeah. You know, I remember when we were first started kind of working together and we were talking through things. What do you want the business to look like? What do you want it to be? And I was like, what do you love doing? And you're like, I love traveling. I was like, well, there you go. Boom. Design the business around that.
And it is. It's great. Like I was just in Colombia and we got a new partner in Colombia. So that's exciting. I love Colombia.
Super exciting.
Have you been?
I have never been to Colombia.
I think Colombia and Mexico kind of get a bad rap, but like Mexico City and Medellin, Colombia are like some of my favorite cities. People are awesome. The food is good. Like if you want to work on your glutes, go to Colombia. Like everything, it's like, everything's uphill.
Everything's uphill. Even when you think you're going downhill, you're going
everything's uphill.
That's awesome. What is, being able to travel and I haven't traveled, throughout the globe like you have, but what are some of the things that you've experienced, seen that's kind of opened your eyes, when you are back home and even, life in general, but also business?
Yeah, I think because you do a lot of like national travel for your
local,
your
within the States
marathons.
No. That too, yeah.
No thanks. I think getting out, because that's still somewhat in the comfort zone, right? Like, the language and like getting somewhere where you don't know anyone or know anything and have to, honestly, the grocery store is like the hardest to figure out. Like the first day, I'm always like, oh my God, you have to spend like 3 hours at the grocery store to try to figure out like what you eat, and just figuring out public transportation and where things are. And I think it's good for business because it creates an adaptability that you just can't get without the experience. And I think with adaptability comes resourcefulness and creativity. And I honestly think that is like lacking in our like little world of real estate that we have here in the US. I mean, I can't speak for all of the US, but I talk to a lot of agents from everywhere. And they're very like, you're like, okay, baby, like you don't actually have blinders. Like, you're not a horse, like let's like open our eyes a little bit and
open up a little bit here.
Like a little bit. And like, let's think through some things. But it's like, I wouldn't know and be able to do that if I wasn't like dropped into a country and had to figure shit out,
It forces you to a whole new level of awareness and get you, because you cannot be comfortable in an environment that nothing.
Well, in that one year, we were switching countries every month. So every month there was like high anxiety, like, oh my God. And you're like having to meet people and eat weird things. And you're like, I don't even know what this is. But like, I get like the first 3 days, you never eat. It's like the greatest diet plan. And then like the next 27 days, you're like gorging on like everything, especially Portugal where the wine is great and you never have a hangover. That's the top recommendation.
That is amazing. And, I think also, Jay Abraham taught us this, right? You're only going to grow incremental within your own industry, right? You can model the best of the best, yet you're only going to have incremental gains. Where you have exponential growth is when you look outside of your industry. I'm curious, not only exponential gains in your business, but also exponential gains in your life by being able to travel and those experiences and just seeing the different cultures and the different pace, and it's just like always on tilt here. It feels in the States. And then, like even working with clients up in Canada where, they take, the time for family, the time for holiday and just understanding that at a higher level. And then, working with, the fellas out of Portugal and understanding their culture and their pace. And it is, it's really fascinating. And then you look at, okay, well, how can I adopt and mold into my business and into my life? And it just makes you exponentially better.
Well, I think too, like for me, I forget what the type of learning is, but like I have to like see it and experience it to really absorb it. I forget what that type of learning is. So it's like if I like in my sandbox in Cincinnati, Ohio, like my first couple of years, like I mean, I was in the top 1% in our state year one, and I was like, uh-oh, like that's not good. And I had to go to an event. I went to an event in Vegas and I met this agent and she was doing 100 deals and I wasn't doing 100. I think at the time my second year, it was like maybe 60. And then I saw her, I was like, oh, she's doing 100. I can do 100, right? But it was never even in my mind until I saw somebody else outside of my little town. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, okay, well, now I'm traveling and I see they do real estate. And it's like, oh, well, I like to travel. And I knew like something was wrong. I was like, the way that I'm running my business it's fine. And I'm making money and I'm doing the things that I want to do, but like, there's got to be more. So then like when I saw EXP and started to experience like, oh, we can literally have partners in other countries. I was like, that's it. But it never would have happened if I hadn't already been out of the country. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, oh, wait, I want to do this. Like, how can I do that? And you start like looking. You're like, oh, wait, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I can make it how I want to do it.
Right. It's that level of awareness, right? I like I heard this one recently, right? It was the two young fish were swimming along and then this old G fish comes swimming by the other way and says, "What's up, fellas? How's the water today?" And, they kept going and, the two young fish, they go a little bit and they stop and they look at each other and they go, "What's water?"
Oh.
And so it's like, you don't know until you're able to step back and see what,
and breathe. And think and like, but you have to do it outside. Like even big companies, they won't do their big brainstorming annual whatevers like in the office. They go somewhere else.
Right. You got to get out of the day-to-day, out of that environment and into a place that allows you, like you said, to be creative and into a creative space. And do you feel that creativity is unlocked the more you travel?
Yes. Because people do things differently, right? And I think there's good and bad to every country, right? I'm always happy that I'm an American, like always, like for a variety of reasons. But I think there are good and bad to everything. I mean, simple stuff like, I don't know, like the bum gun. Do you know a bum gun?
No, what is that?
So in Asia and parts of Latin America, it's like a vegetable sprayer for your bum. I was like, that's so clean. Yes.
And
interesting. But it's like, that's cool. Like, that sounds good. Or like different ways, like I don't cook, but like eating different foods and like that they're healthier and like it's the same food, but they make it differently. And you're like, oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just different little nuances, different little angles and like, learning and looking outside of, even your business, outside of your industry, right? It teaches you that principle to not get caught up with what's right in front of you, but let's look at what's working well over here, right? What works well in this country? What works well in this industry? And how can I apply that to what I'm trying to do within my business?
But I also think that people get stuck. They're like, okay, well, Like it's working. And especially us Midwesterners, we're always like, well, it's fine. But fine stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional, right? So, like, is that what you really want? You want it to be fine. And then they'll move to, like, well, it's enough. I have enough. Okay. Well, consider this. Like, if you had more than your fair share that you didn't need, would you perhaps help other people? Okay, if that's true, then maybe you should get more of your unfair share so that you can help other people. Otherwise, potentially somebody who would not help other people is getting more than their unfair share. So now you're like doubly not helping people. Like
Right.
that's not cool.
No.
So go freaking get your unfair share and help people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Even if it means, expanding and growing your business and, knowing that you need some leverage and some help that you can, bring somebody into your organization that can help you grow
Yeah,
and to do the
right.
things you want to achieve. And you're providing, a life, for them, helping
For them,
them
yeah.
accomplish the things that they're wanting to accomplish. So
Well,
I'm
especially in a lot of other countries, like where their commission splits are like they're only keeping like half of their income and they don't have exclusive rights like we do, like to sell and list. They don't have that. So, yeah, we can offer them an opportunity that's like way better for their family than what they're currently getting, which is
right.
awesome.
Yeah, it's, just even the little bit that I've, dove in, not to the extent that you have in these countries and understanding, how they do business, how the model is and, real estate specific, man, it's the wild, wild west. And
It
it's
is.
like, how do you protect this? Like, how do you, where's the ethical guideline? Like,
Yeah.
and,
This is why we
just,
donate to our pack, people. Our pack.
yeah,
Donate. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's just fascinating to see that they could even get anything done.
Well, right. So a lot of the ways that I started my business off as a wholesaler and I would wholesale short sales. And this was like 2009. This was before I got a real estate license, maybe 2000, somewhere in there, when the short sales were like a lot. And that's how it was short selling. Like it was a grind. It was a hustle. Like I had to like kind of get sort of control of this house, but it really didn't prevent them from doing whatever they wanted, the sellers. And then I had to like sell it. It was crazy. So it was like it was a hustle. And I think as real estate agents, the way that we've set up the system is a little bit cushy. And a lot of agents are relying on just putting a sign up, putting it in the MLS and then praying to whoever that it sells, or not even praying, just be like, whatever. I mean, if you've gotten in the business in the last 3 years, you haven't had to basically do anything. But
Right.
like, is that really what's best for our client? Like, are you leaving money on, do you know what is the opportunity cost of that process? Are you leaving money on the table for your clients? Are you not getting, if you have a listing, you should have at least 3 other clients as a result of that. And if you're not getting that, then you're not doing your job.
Right. Yeah, you're not maximizing the opportunity. There's so much
Right.
more, and you're not even trying to squeeze any
No, you're being
opportunity.
lazy.
It is. It's a lot of reward for bad behavior, and it's just a matter of time. It's the time. It's going to catch up. You said
Yeah.
something about kind of when you got into the game, and most people don't even know what short sales or wholesaling is. Do you see kind of where things are going, that we're going to start to see more of those coming back around, more short sales,
I
more?
don't think my short answer is no. They've always been around. There's always been people that can't pay their mortgage for whatever
Yep.
reason or don't pay. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that it was going to be like it was. Are you seeing any?
So there are more. So pre-pandemic, I had Nolly Williams on
Mhm.
Expert Mentors, and we kind of got into, Nolly's all about finding the niche. He's, definitely make sure, you have your database, people that know you, like you, love you. He's like,
Right.
he's big on find a long-term geographical strategy, if you're going to be in a marketplace for a while. And then he's all about, layering in some niches. I like to have, My buddy Alex likes to have kind of what he calls his core four. I like to get to 6 to 7 different strategies, right, to be able to have for a sustainable business. And especially if you're not strong, like you have an ability that you can get on the phones and talk to anybody. So you have a skill set that travels.
Yeah.
Meaning travels to any market, travels to any climate of the market, any
Doesn't
seasonality
matter.
of the market. It doesn't matter. You have a skill set that travels. And not everybody has that skill set. And
Boom,
so
get it.
they don't get it. So they have to have multiple ones. But what Nolly was talking about is that one of the niches, and this was pre-pandemic, he said pre-foreclosures are on the rise. And he said most people don't realize that. He said, however, they are. And then I had Nolly back on, after things had kind of opened back up.
Yeah.
And we talked about it again. And he said pre-foreclosures are still going to be on the rise. And this was when everybody was like, what are you talking about? Home prices have raised so high. But what's happened is that an extreme amount of people have refied and pulled money. Mm-hmm. And some were smart. Some bought other homes.
And some weren't. Yeah.
Some weren't. And then there's a handful of people, and maybe more than a handful of people, that took advantage of not making payments.
Yeah.
So they took 12 and then they took advantage of the 24. Well, guess what?
Now they owe a lot of money.
Now they owe a lot of money. And here's the thing. Some of them that did that were able to refi in. Mm-hmm. What are you going to refi into right now?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of mortgages out there right now that are in rates that we may never see again.
Right.
So for you, that's been creative, been on the wholesaling side of things. Mm-hmm. And we start to see these sellers that haven't made a payment. Maybe they refied to a ridiculously lower rate than what they already had. They sucked all the cash out.
Right.
Where is that opportunity? Is there an opportunity? Can you do, take over, the mortgage for deed? Is there a wholesale opportunity? Like where
you can assign to, it depends on how far they're underwater they are, right? So if you're not underwater, the payments are just more than what you can afford. You have a lot more options. But to be underwater now means that you owe more than what the market will bear. That's pretty tough. You can see if there's a short sale opportunity with the bank, right? And I always recommend you not doing the short sale, we partner with Rob Jacobs, and he gets his fee paid by the bank. So you might as well do it and you still get paid, right? Because he's an expert. But it depends on what the rent could be. It depends on, there's a lot of factors, right? It depends on everybody's situation. Sure. How come they can't pay? There is
a lump sum of money due, right? And then, they're not able, they haven't been making payments. They're not able, they're living maybe above their means. Is there an opportunity to just take over that mortgage with that ridiculously low rate? Because think about it as an investor.
It could be assumable. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see more of that, especially with, there's a lot of VA loans coming through now. All VA loans are assumable automatically, to my knowledge. And they can still, I believe they're still eligible for another VA loan. There are people that will do contract, where they'll pay you a lump sum, but then they take over the deed. That's a little.
You get a little dicey there.
It gets a little dicey because if they're on the deed, but you have the mortgage,
right?
You can't really do anything. I think everybody's situation is different. One of the ways that we've been getting more money beyond the market is through an online bidding platform we've been using, which has worked really well. I think, did you tell me they do this in Australia?
I don't know, what's possibly changed. I know, percentage, I think it was close to 40% of the transactions in Australia happen via auction.
So this
And
is
so,
like,
yeah,
it's not an auction because we have rules about auctions, but it's a bid like eBay, but it's similar to an auction, but it's not like a reserve price or anything like that. It's just like you price the property below market value, like 40% below, to cast a wide net. We're getting like 200 people at each open house. You do at least 4 open houses, maybe 5 over like a week or 2. Then everything's transparent. So it's all online. Everybody can see the bids, and the bids go up because psychologically, the people want to win, right?
sure.
So yeah, they like it. They like to win.
Are you doing that there locally? Or are you doing
Mhm.
it in other markets?
We are only doing it locally right now. We have we have a partner in Florida that's doing it in Florida, and then other people are doing it that are not partners with us.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
it
Yeah.
is.
Understanding kind of in that auction world a little bit and understanding it and seeing it. Yeah, I don't know. Is it a cultural thing? Why it really, we don't see more of that here in the States, or what is it?
I think it's people like the pushback that we're getting is like, well, are you allowed to do this?
Mm,
What do you mean allowed? They're like, well, I don't know if my broker will let me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you run your business
yeah.
or does your broker run your business?
Yeah.
Like you don't work for the broker. Like the broker, it doesn't, I mean, they have nothing to do with your business except they hold the liability for you, right?
Right.
So people like they're thinking, well, that's not how it's always been. We've always done things according to XYZ, and like that's how we're gonna do it. And it's like, okay, but if you could just open your eyes a little bit and realize that, like, I mean, Zillow's a perfect example. How many years did they tell us we're never gonna be a brokerage? We're never, and then all of a sudden, boom, they are. You see, you have companies, a bunch of iBuyers coming in. Like people need to open their eyes and see like what is really going on. Are your current processes where they need to be in order to compete? Because real estate is changing, it will change. I mean, the Federal Trade Commissioner just smacked Open Door. Did you see that? What they have to pay back?
Crazy.
Like $62 million. If Keller Williams or Sibsy, like whoever got smacked with a $62 million fine, shit would change.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just kind of thinking through, how people get so stuck in their ways
Because
of,
it's easy. Complacency is easy.
right. But if you believe you're either growing or dying, what is complacency?
But most people, it's dying. Most people don't believe that.
Yeah. Uh, I believe that.
Oh, well, obviously.
And
Obviously, you believe that.
what and I think what you believe is also truth, and it's the facts of your current of what your thinking is. And
Yeah.
but I also think too, like what we were talking about, at the beginning of the conversation is that, exposing yourself to other possibilities,
Yes.
surrounding yourself, it's immersing yourself in different environments and different circumstances to force you to be creative.
But
Um,
for me, it started with the thought of like, is this it? Am I done? Like, did I make it? It feels like this is not right. Like,
yeah,
there's got to be more.
right,
And that thought led me to an action of seeking out more
right,
different things. So I think it also depends on who you are, right? Like, I was trying to avoid pain, I think, of like, fuck, this can't be it. Like, oh
right.
my God, this is terrible. Like, it's fine. It's fine, you
There's
know?
always a better way, and that's kind of
Yeah.
been one of our mantras, is that there's got to be a better way. And I like yeah, I think it's just latching on to different things, right, and forming your own belief system, right? Because beliefs are just a collection of our thoughts, but
Right.
so it's just getting a collection of different thoughts and modeling and borrowing and experiencing and
But it's
things
like
like that.
also
And
looking at your life, like, is it working? Is this
right.
the peak? Is this the peak? Is this how you imagined your life to be?
But most people, Well, like you said, they become complacent, they settle.
Yeah. Ugh.
And it goes back to walking through Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Everything's uphill. And I'm, everything in life is uphill. And I
Yeah.
think that's why most people, they may have these big dreams and aspirations, and then, this is their life down here. And what tends to happen is that they're not willing to make the climb. And
Mm-hmm.
so
It's like too hard.
that comes down, and the vision of their life becomes their reality. And that's just kind of where they get stuck. But it also comes back to that environment. It comes back to the circumstance that they tend to maybe fall victim to, right? Play the victim game instead of be accountable for what is their life. I like Tim Ferriss's question, if it were easy, what would it look like?
Right.
I think you live some of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's always got to be a better way. And it's like you even look at process improvement, and it's like sitting down, it's like, show me what you do. And it's like, well, why do you do that?
Yeah.
Why can't, you're going here to here to here to here.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you just go from here to here?
Well, yeah. What will it take to go? But it's also the questions that you ask, right? I ask, what will it take to get there? And you're already starting to think like, what will it take? What will it take? And you're already seeking instead of like a question that stops you.
Yeah. There's a great little mental exercise, and I've done it with a handful of groups, and there's a maze, and it's like, start here, end here. And it's like, get how fast can you get to the finish line?
Do I have a hovercraft?
The thing is that it doesn't say that. It's like, how fast can you get there? And most people are like, try to
get
go
on my hovercraft. Teleporting.
Jump over it. Go around it. Right. Like, it's like, there's no, it's the rules are the rules that you make. And, you look at, okay, hey, what's the game? What am I, what's the game? What's the outcome? What are we trying to accomplish? Is this something that excites me?
Yes.
And then what are all the ways possible for that for us to achieve that desired outcome?
Well, and then what it gets, I agree with you. I think we've all experienced this some point in our life, right? We're like, that looks really hard. But like, I can tell you that once you get there and you see like, it's actually not that hard, because there's just, life becomes easier because there's not really like any competition up there. Like, there's really, you can just play. And so like now it's like, I'm on a path to figure out how ridiculous I can become. And you know what I mean? Like, how crazy can I be? So like, even just something simple. So we started this online bidding process. Of course, we got in trouble by the MLS because I get something from them every day. Like, you can't do this. And I'm like,
that's why you have a good attorney.
Right? No, I just call them. And I'm like, hey, what do you mean? Can you clarify? Well, can we do this? Can we do this? And she's like, I was like, so what you're trying to make sure that I don't do is that on the day that it goes live, I have to have a showing. But do I have to have it showing for all day, or can I have it be 10 minutes? She's like, you can do whatever you want. I was like, oh, problem solved, done.
Yeah, there you go.
But like, by asking questions, and I even talked to a friend of mine that's actually an auctioneer. And I was like, how do you do yours? And he's like, well, I just let it be shown because that's what they said I had to do. I was like, yeah, but that's not the process. It doesn't work if you just let it be shown. Like, that's not how if you want to create a bidding effect, you have to drive people there at the same time. So that's what we have to do. But like,
goes back to the intent, right?
Yeah.
And that's with anything, is just like trying to understand, well, what is the intent of,
what are we trying to do?
Yeah. What are we trying to accomplish? What is that intent? And yeah, it's so fascinating. I think the other thing too is that, like you said, what is the desired outcome that you want? Yeah. And then it's a reverse engineer. And I think that's where people get stuck, is that, you and I talked about this. I don't believe you commit and figure it out. It's not sustainable. That's where people become complacent. It gets too hard. Right. They don't have the right mental models. They don't have the right environment, mentors to push them through. I believe you figure out what you want to achieve, and then you just reverse engineer. It's like, no different. Like when we, just did, the 100-mile, I didn't look at it. I didn't look at it as a 100-mile. I looked like, I was like, well, we need to break this apart. Let's run 10 mile races.
Yeah.
And then within each 10 races, then there's a mile. So there's 10 miles. So there's going to be, we're going to progress check every mile, every
Yes.
mile, every mile. Okay. Well, race one's done. We're on to race
We're
2.
done. Yeah.
And I believe, you just have to deconstruct things, and it's just easier, right? It's like, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. One bite at a time.
Even I have never had an elephant.
I haven't either.
Nasty food.
I don't plan on it either.
I don't think you should eat them. Shouldn't ride them either, actually. Sorry.
It's not good. Not
It's
good.
not good.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. And I think people either run towards pleasure, but most people stay away from pain, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the pain in your life is like, okay, well, it doesn't work for me, but if I change, it will affect those that are closest to me. And that's the rub, right? Like it will maybe potentially in your head, you're thinking it'll have a negative impact. And in my experience, and I'm curious if yours is the same, if you becoming a better person negatively impacts those around you, you're welcome. That's awesome. And if it also helps them, gives them the permission to improve, fucking awesome. Right? Yeah. Like there's no bad outcome here. If the negative people that were keeping you down go away, you're going to be better off.
Right.
And if 100%. They become better, you're going to be exponentially better off.
Right. It's the whole crab in the bucket, concept that as you continue to up yourself, the people that's going to be holding you back. And,
crabs, have you, because I went crabbing, which is a weird experience. Anyway, they're like little claws.
Yeah.
They fall off. Like the crab can release its whole arm and then it will just grow another one. So sometimes there's like a little crab with like a little like mini crab, like a little mini one. But like the crab even knows when it's time to release its arm. And it's like, F it, my arm is gone. You're crazy. My arm is gone.
Yeah.
And then it's just like runs away and grows another one.
But that's the thing, right? I think certain people, they get to a point, they're like, I can't, I got to let them go. Or, and, I remember just the concept. And I remember hearing this from Andy Frisella, and it was along the same thing, right? Talking about people and outgrowing people. And, he said, he just typical Andy Frisella fashion. He said, did you leave them or did they choose not to come along? And I was like, that's it.
Yes,
right?
That is
because
it.
If you are a grower and, learner mode at all times, and it's one of our values, it's like the number one value that I hang everything on with everybody around me. What are we learning? And, it's like, we didn't fail. What did we learn? How do we adjust? How do we keep moving uphill?
Yeah.
Right. We may have took a too steep of a path that we weren't ready to take. Maybe we need to go this way or go down a little bit and go up. Maybe we need to train a little bit more. And so to me, that's one of the concepts, is that I can't want it more than you want it for yourself.
No,
I can hopefully inspire you on the path, but you've got to put in the work, and you got to come along if you want to come along.
Well, and also too, creativity is a muscle, and growing is a muscle, right? Like the more you practice it, and I think too, you have to feed it, right? Because it's really difficult to be excited if you're not like listening to anything good or around people who are like excited about their life, or like being, like you had said, your environment matters. But then also too, the more you use it, the more it opens up.
So how do you do that for yourself?
Well, I read a lot, and I just also read books for fun. But like I read some business books. Like what's that one I told you about that was so good about how people make decisions?
Yeah, I've got it right here. I started it. I got sucked into
Irrationally.
Predictably Irrational.
Predictably Irrational.
Yeah.
Best freaking book ever. But that's like, I would consider that a business book. It's more science-y. But then also reading like other books. Like I'm reading one about, it's called Longing. And it's like, I'm not a religious person, but it's like about the story of Jesus as told by like, I think it's Mary Magdalene. Like, it's crazy. So just reading and like, cause when you read, at least for me, when I read, I get stuck into the story.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you're seeing something from somebody else's perspective, which I think is key, right? It's key to working with buyers and sellers. It's key to being inventive because you're like, how would this person solve that? What would they do? What would they think about it? I listen to podcasts, have a coach. I mean, I think all of these are really important because
Yeah.
if you don't put good stuff in, then you'll just have garbage.
Right. And I think that's where you see a lot of people that are not, that have become complacent, that are not in, they're feeding themselves the news. They're getting stuck
Mhm.
into the narrative and
Or only stuff that matches with what they're saying, like what they believe to also be true. Like they never
confirmation
challenge
bias.
their,
So they're looking
yes,
for things to confirm instead
yeah,
of things to challenge their
yes,
thinking.
yes,
Yeah, that's a great distinction. And yeah, I think it is. It's always in, you know, what is it? Elon's, I know I'm wrong. I'm just trying to be less wrong.
yeah, exactly,
Right. And I
yeah,
think if you adopt that, it's like, I know I'm wrong. Where am I wrong in my thinking? Where am I wrong in
yeah,
my actions? Where am I wrong in what I'm doing? And that just, I think, keeps you open to receptive to feedback, to
yes.
looking and pulling certain things and conversations and,
Because there's a lot that we don't know. Not one person can know everything. Like it's
no way.
literally not possible. So if you don't know everything, is everybody else that you're around, do they make up the rest of what you're missing? Do you make up what they're missing? Or are you all the same? If you're all the same, then I mean you're not a whole group, you
Right.
know? I
Right.
also think like for me, if people are there's two kind of things that like I live by. One, if I don't upset somebody at least once a day, I'm not helping them grow. I think you got to be upset. It's okay for you to be upset. Be upset. And also, two, that means I'm not pushing them. You know what I mean? And I'm
Right.
committed to helping people grow.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just like if people aren't being like, "You're insane. How do you do that? What are you doing? Like, how did you even think of that?" Like, if I don't hear that regularly, then I know I'm not pushing myself.
Right. Right. And you have those feedback loops too, right? Where, hey man, you seem off. And it's like, damn, I'm not pushing hard enough. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not, doing the things that I need to do
Yeah.
to stay, to keep evolving. Right.
Hmm.
Shit. Am I coming a little complacent? Like, oh no. Right. And it just forces you. But if you're not open or receptive to that, you would never hear that. You'd
Right.
be like, screw you, man. Right. But you're like,
Yeah. And
oh
then you wake up one day and you're like, oh no, I only sold 5 houses this year. Well,
yeah,
duh. You haven't been
yeah.
doing shit.
Let me do nothing.
You've been hoping and praying somebody comes to your door that's like, hey, need you to sell my cousin's house.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to your door.
Yeah. Hope is not a strategy. And
It's a
I
terrible
think
strategy.
it's a terrible strategy. And I think, and I've fallen victim to this a couple
You have to
times.
add visualization to it. No, just
Yes.
kidding.
I've fallen victim to this a couple times, getting into, being in an environment and then, having an older mentor and then like, oh wow, man, kind of becoming dependent upon them. And, it's
Yeah.
like, and that's a slippery slope to fall into and
You
knowing
mean
that,
because of what?
just traveling, hey, here's a little bit of extra spending money, just little things. Hey, join us for this, right? And not, um, Floyd Mayweather has a concept is like, I will always pay my way.
Hmm.
And um, I know in my past, I've, ridden some coattails and it's like, fuck, did I get the most out of that experience or would I have gotten more if I would have, put more of paying my way into it? And sometimes, we have to have sweat equity in those
Yeah.
relationships when we don't
But
have the
sometimes
ability to
too,
protect equity.
we know what we need to do. We just need like a little push too. I think
Sure.
it's a balancing act, right? Like I
Sure.
don't think depending only on yourself and if you can't do something being like, well, that I don't know. I just don't think that's always the solution either. I think there has to be because you can be given something and still make the most of it. And if you hadn't been given that, you would never be where you're at.
Right. Right. And yeah, I'm with you. I see what you're saying. And, yeah, I mean, we all need those relationships. And I think it's allowed me to return the favor, right?
Exactly.
Be able to, and that's also been part of it too, right there. Like, hey, what do I owe you? It's like, just pass it along, brother.
Yeah.
Just keep passing it along. And, I think for me, always looking to try to do that, right? Trying to pour into, like
Yes.
you said. And I think, one of the things that you're talking about is not only reading and listening to stuff, but you have a ton of conversations and you talk to a lot of different people. How has the podcast really helped you kind of evolve and grow, and then also pretty much continuing to keep you fearless in being able to just jump in and have a conversation with anybody?
I think one, I like to see how different people do different things. So on the podcast, we're asking like specific questions, right? Like even simple ones, like should you use the bathroom while you're showing a house? But like when people answer that, I just love to see like how they think, because there's people that come from all angles and you're like, oh my God, I never even like thought about that. Like I have an answer that I think, right? And the co-host Monica has an answer that she thinks. And then we'll get like 400 other totally different answers. And you're like, I literally thought there was one answer.
Yeah.
There's never one answer. Never,
Well,
never,
everybody
never,
has
never.
their perspective, and they also bring their experience to the
Yes.
conversation. Yeah.
Well, and two, like I think hearing other people's stories and what they've been through and their perspective and experience, like you said, it makes you a more well-rounded person because you can literally empathize with their story. You can be like, oh my God, I would do the same thing if I was in your shoes. Or like, did you think about this? And as you're talking to clients and customers and business partners, you can share then their stories, right? It's not just you. And stories are more powerful selling than telling people.
100%. You have to get people caught up into, feeling it, right? You move them emotionally. They get caught up into the story, and it's able to connect. And it just allows us
your
to connect.
confidence too. So like you can't, like if you just are really just never talk to anybody, like you're never going to do any business. And that's the whole point. I mean, why are you doing real estate in the first place?
Yeah. You got to have
contact sport. Go contact people.
Be a human and, be able to have those conversations. So for you, like looking at kind of the landscape, you got to ride, when you got into the business, traveling a ton, back to traveling a ton. Like, what are you like seeing that you're the most excited about moving forward?
Well, I have a dream of being the czarina of real estate.
Explain what that is.
I'm not sure. I like the word. And it's the female version of the czar. I thought it was something else, but somebody corrected me. So I think real estate is changing, and it also needs to change. And I think part of it is people like us that are more creative, more inventive, more like right now, many board of realtors are filled with people who maybe don't do a lot of business. Maybe they're on the down, right? Because that's how it works. You come in, you're working to grow your business. You don't have time for this other stuff. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can give back. But if we can create a culture where we're pulling in all different perspectives, people on the uphill, people on the downhill, people like all these people, will make for a better environment for us as real estate agents. And I'm pro real estate agent. I'm not pro realtor, but that's feels like a different podcast. But I think we're needed in our industry, and being the czarina of real estate of the world, of course, because it was the US, but then it got expanded.
World, yes.
World domination is like having people around you to make decisions that are different perspectives. And then I also want to be the largest international group inside of EXP. Those are my goals.
I love it. And I know what you mean by that resistance with the old guard. We were the most innovative in our market. And actually, Kinder was next in line to become board president. They ousted him. They wouldn't even let him be it. we were the most innovative. We pushed the envelope. We challenged, and the old guard, there was more of the old guard than there was of us. And
that
so
sucks. You guys got to get, and like, that's the thing, right? I'm actually going for my interview today to be on the board.
Yeah.
I was like, are you sure?
Well, I mean, you want change, you got to be a part of it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the government and advocacy board right now, and I'm supposed to be the chair next year. And it's like, we're having these meetings, and I'm like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Like, what are we doing? What is our goal? Like,
what's the intent? What are we trying to do?
Exactly. Yeah. And then let's talk about it, like.
Well, I mean, it has to start there, right? What's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? What do we stand for, right? If not, why do we even exist?
But I think that's hard, to get. I mean, you have that's hard to know. If you are in your 30s, in your 40s, you've had your family, like, you've been committed to that. And you've been committed, especially as females, we get committed to everybody else except for ourselves. And so once you're in your 40s and the kids are grown and like whatever, right? And you've built your business to where it's stabilized, then you're like, what else is there? And you forget it's muggy. You know what I mean? And like that clarity report that you have really works to uncover it.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah. And so I think, like, if people feel foggy, like, that's a good place to start to get clear about what do you really want? Like, what do you want? Not what do you want for everybody else? What do you want?
That's the thing we say all the time, right? It's like you have to make sure that, one, you know your values, you're living within your values, and your goals align to your values, and they're your goals.
Yours.
Because if not, it's not sustainable. And
no, because when it gets hard, it will not pull you through.
Do you believe a lot of people just don't have goals?
I think that they don't. I think that they have their goals. I don't think that they believe that they can get there. Mm. I think a lot of people are insecure and maybe not insecure is maybe strong, but they're not confident in their ability to get there. And I can tell you that if your goals are strong enough, you can get there. And it becomes clearer. When you know what they are, it's very clear, and nothing will stop you. Like, nothing will stop you.
What's the first step?
I had a goal of being, right. Yeah, I mean, but you can't. You literally cannot stop if it's that strong. It like wills you into the action of doing the thing, right?
And keep the courage. Stay in the fire.
But you have to also be surrounded by other people if that's not a natural thing. If you're not naturally, like, I like to call it pleasantly persistent, but like, if you don't naturally have this like aggressiveness, you have to be around people that are encouraging you, that are like, you got this, shut the hell up and get going.
Pushing you.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to hear your whiny stories. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. I love that. Jen,
nobody cares about your tears. Your mama is not here.
No, not at all. Jen, what's the podcast?
Real Estate Fight Club Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a fighter, not a lover. That's the thing.
It's awesome. You co-host with Monica. You guys, drop almost episode a day, don't you?
No, we do 2 a week, and then I do like the different interviews and stuff. Yeah, it's basically an episode a day. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot.
It's good. Awesome. Jen, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for jumping in.
Thank you.
Always a ton of knowledge, always fun catching up and connecting. So make sure you guys subscribe to the Real Estate Fight Club podcast, connect with at Jennifer Murtland everywhere, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Jen, thank you.
Thanks, John.
See ya.